What have you learned?
I have learned that I have been pretty lucky to end up in contact with the Sufi books, with the Zen books, with the Avatamsaka Sutra, the books that not only like provides kind of a clear guidance, but also makes sense. Like it's not something that I need to assume or have faith in, like other religious texts that I was used to. And with that, like also the people I somehow ended up talking to this last couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of wall that I hit with people who were talking about this stuff, it just feels like that yeah, like this is something totally different and kind of rare for me to get in touch with, especially with my background from India and Hinduism.
The Buddhists would say that you were lucky to be born human. And they correctly, I think, the mathematicians could check this out. The way they analogize it is if you were, the chances of being born human on this earth, in this universe, but let's just take the earth. If you take an ox yoke, an oxen's yoke, that goes around the
Hmm.
neck, or an inner tube, same difference, and you set it loose, say in Japan, and you just let it float on the Pacific Ocean, and then from LA, or the west coast of the US, you set a duck free, and that duck dives down to the bottom once every 100 years. The chances of being born human, when you look at the whole time scale of things, is the same as that duck coming up when it comes up after every 100-year dive, coming up with its head through the center of that yolk, or that inner tube. So a human birth is obviously extremely rare if you just look at the history of the planet, let alone the universe. And then to be exposed to authentic teaching is also extremely rare. People don't understand that, and if they did, they would see how much of a blessing it is. But look, it looks like you've discovered that, so that's fantastic. That's very good news. Excellent. Questions or comments about that?
Uh, yeah, so I definitely see the rarity of coming in contact with it, with the authentic teachings
Mm-hmm.
for a human. Uh, but I but maybe I want to talk a bit more about the importance of just being born human. Uh,
All right.
so like so earlier I had the idea of like there's a soul, and then when after that the soul continues and continues until it basically liberates itself. That's the idea of reincarnation
Until it
and
what's
liberation,
itself.
until it liberates itself,
All
like
right.
until it gets to or something. But now, once I throw out all the ideas that I don't have experience with, now I don't know whether after that, uh, all that thing, like is there any relevance of a human life? Because if after that human life merges with the fundamental, then it happens to all the species as well. So then, but then humans also have the mind, but other species and maybe don't have that mind that makes their life like of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So does it really matter whether they're born human or not?
It's a matter of where you choose to look from, as everything else in this cosmos. So if you look from the point of view of your mother, or your father, or your brothers and sisters, or people that love you, or people that you love, yes, it matters a lot. There's nothing more important from that point of view. Now, from a cosmic point of view, if you've read the Avatamsaka, or you've done the cosmic visualizations, where you just look dispassionately at the size of this planet compared to the rest of the galaxy, then and then galaxies upon galaxies, the universe, you could see the relative size, which is less than a grain of sand. And so you could, from that point of view, you could say that it's insignificant. But there's one thing you've left out, that the entire universe depends on your point of view. Your universe will end at your death. So there's a great mullah joke. Do you remember this one about a great Sufi joke that puts this into some kind of memorable form? Someone comes up to the mullah one day and says to him, "Mullah, I'm sorry to bring you the news, but your wife has died." Now the mullah immediately bursts into tears and starts crying, and as I recall the joke, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, we're sorry, mullah, that your wife has died. It must feel horrible. Must feel like the end of the world." And the mullah lifts up his head enough to just say that, "No, when I die, that will be the real end of the world." The joke I've screwed up because you have to, these are beautifully written teaching jokes. But the point is that the death of his wife was the lesser end of the world, whereas his own death was the greater end of the world. Thus memorializing the fact that the world that you've known, the world that you see, the world that you've cultivated and cared for and nourished will vanish when you die.
Mm-hmm.
So only you can say whether it's significant or not.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
I think it makes that as it
Do you
that
know where that?
that you,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that once I'm born a human, then my universe continues with my existence, and it ends when I die, when the physical body dies. Probably ends after that, merges into
So what do you
something.
think? Does the universe have any significance?
Universe is beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, just to have known beauty.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I enjoy it. I'm pretty sure other people, else also enjoys it.
The birds and the butterflies, and the trees and the fish, the octopuses, they
Yeah,
enjoy it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But beyond that, like having like any higher purpose other than that, like a universe evolving, getting to something bigger. That part I am not sure about because
Bigger.
like I read in some books that universe is evolving to like a better state, like higher consciousness, things like that. But if
It
it's
doesn't matter
consciousness
what,
or
it doesn't matter what a book says. What matters is that's called preaching from the bleachers going forward.
Mhm.
Preaching from the bleachers doesn't matter. What do you say? Is the universe evolving?
To me, I can't really tell. Like my personal universe has feels like it has got into a better state compared to before. But if I include the totality of the world, the suffering or the pleasures, the things that have been in the world have been pretty much the same. I do feel
No,
that people are more.
that has diminished radically, radically in my lifetime.
Mhm.
In my lifetime, I
But
watched childhood starvation be eradicated. Essentially, I mean, not
Mhm.
perfectly, but I mean, there used to be. See, you're looking at a much younger perspective. It definitely has, the amount of suffering in the world has gone down, except for maybe mental in the West. But what about the animals? Do you think they're evolving?
animals, honestly, about that, I have no idea.
Well, how
But
much
I do
contact do
keep
you have?
reading.
How much contact do you have with the creatures of the world?
Uh, I mean, not with the animals that much. Like maybe sometimes I play with some friend's dog or cat.
You're really
Uh,
missing out. You're really, really, really missing out. These creatures that were put here as our companions have so much to teach. And if you take anybody that does have a relationship with a dog or even a cat or even a hamster, although I've never owned a hamster, it enriches their life. And they teach. What it was, a Rumi, I think he said, someone asked Rumi, Master, how did you learn such transcendent patience? And he said quite honestly, I believe, he said, by watching my cat at a mouse hole waiting for a mouse. And you can learn all kinds of things from these creatures because they don't have the secondary elaboration of our brains. They don't have the thought. And they aren't all preoccupied with the future or with the past. They're just in the present. They're in the eternal nukstans. And so, get one as a teaching master, is what I say. All right, but good. So you don't think the animals are evolving, but you don't have any contact with them?
I mean, I just said I don't know whether they're evolving or
Okay,
not.
all right. You
I
have
mean,
no way
the
of
contact,
knowing.
yeah, the contact I had was growing up. Like my grandparents, they had cows because in India there's a culture of having
Cows are
cows for
wonderful
milk,
too.
and yeah, and I used to take them out to like for grazing and stuff. And
They
and yeah, I
love
remember
music.
how.
Cows love music. They go nuts for music. I grew up with next to a herd of cows. My neighbor had a small herd of cows, and I'd practice my trombone. Nobody liked it indoors. I was just a little kid. Not a little kid. I was, freshman in high school. So I'd practice outside, and the cows would always come over every day and just sit there transfixed. They loved it. But I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I remember like how uncaring they used to be, like in the sense if they are grazing, they just keep on grazing indefinitely, or if they're just sitting, they're okay with just doing nothing and sitting for like hours and hours. The only time they would actually really care if they have they have a what do you call, like a kid, like their kid, like their son, or like
A
like
calf.
the small animal, yeah, calf, and then the female one would care about it a
Well, how
lot.
much do people in India interact with the cows besides just to take their milk?
Uh,
You play with them?
I think I think at least in the villages people used to, because they used to, because in villages Indian people treat cows as like holy mother, like goddess, something like that. So they like worship it, and then also like that during the day make sure they have water, they have like.
Women don't only want to be worshipped. I mean, that would be a drag to be just worshipped all the time.
Mhm.
Where's the fun in that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe we'll get another chance to like interact with a cow. It takes a period of time. They're not going to trust you in a day or two, right?
Hmm.
But cows and donkeys are incredible too. At any rate, going to Animal Farm here. Yeah, okay, good. So they didn't get a human birth, but they have another birth. They have another life, another universe.
Hmm.
They see
Yeah.
different things.
Mm.
They feel
Yeah.
different things. They
Yeah.
only can observe certain things. Some we can observe, and others we can't. So there's a Venn diagram of each
Hmm.
creature and the human. But
Hmm.
your universe was extremely good fortune. So take
Hmm.
care of it. Reminds me of the Little Prince. Okay. Questions, comments?
Uh, Not on. I mean, I think I still gonna contemplate more on the human versus other species
Not
uh,
versus, alongside.
alongside. Yeah, yeah, alongside.
The loyalty and the love of dogs, the faithfulness and the constancy of dogs is
Hmm.
incredible. I
Hmm.
mean, it's really inspiring to I've had some dogs that I really admire. Incredible animals, creatures.
Mhm.
And there's again the Sufi story of the I think again it was it Rumi or maybe it was someone else. It may have been Rumi. Some dog came and lifted his leg on the next to the Rumi's robe, and one of his students goes over
Mhm.
and starts to beat it with a stick. Don't get away from my master, right? And Rumi
Mhm.
tells him to stop, and the guy's going, well, but he was going to pee on your leg, master.
Mhm.
And he says a dog has its own station on the way. And he
Mhm.
wasn't joking. I mean, these dogs have attributes that many humans
Mhm.
would do very well to cultivate.
Mhm.
And so be kind to your warm blooded friends.
Mhm.
Because a duck may be somebody's mother. Do you know that song?
No.
Well, I won't go into it now, but okay. That's a rich area to explore.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's one of the people would be more sane if they had a creature they could refer to and care for the
Mhm.
way the creature cares for them.
Mhm.
There's a starvation for authentic contact. People are substituting electronics and virtual worlds for the real world of warmth, even if it's animal warmth. Maybe
Mhm.
especially if it's animal warmth. Haha. I crack myself up. Okay, question.
Yeah, so growing up, I had two friends who had dogs, and I used to like go to their place. Initially, the dogs were like not friendly, but then with time, they got used to me. I've like, and when I will feed them, also after, especially after the feeding sessions, I noticed that they were now very much like not just friendly, but like when I will come in, they'll like run up to me and like
Sure.
be closer to. So it seemed to me that the affection that was coming from them is probably like a conditioned response in animals that with time and with certain things they develop that.
Imagine if you
And
were holed up
but
in your apartment and you have no food, and then one day a person comes, an average person comes, and brings you some food, and then you wait 48 hours, and then they come again, and you're hungry, and they bring you some more food. How are you going to feel towards that person?
yeah, very grateful.
You're going to look forward to them coming
Yeah,
if you're hungry.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just
But then you. Mhm.
classical conditioning.
Hmm. But then you also mentioned to me some time ago on DMs on X that with animals we can learn true love. Like with dogs, we can learn about true love.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about DMs, but that's a good one. Okay. Uh, yeah, for many people, love, the first love they really know, the first love they ever really experience is for an animal, a cat, a dog, a horse, a mule, a donkey, a goat.
Mm-hmm.
Because human love is so complicated and full of all kinds of weird stuff. And so there
Mm-hmm.
is love between I mean, the creatures are capable of love. Can the human match it? That's the question. And some people humans can't, and they're deprived themselves of a whole dimension of life because they think the only thing they can love is another human, and that's just false.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I prescribe, and I'm not the only one. Pets or domestic partners, domestic partners. That's what they are. To people because there's a lacuna, there's a lake, there's a hole in their lives, there's a hole in their development, there's a whole big hole there where they've never known love, except maybe as a dependent, and sometimes not even that. And also, it's a diagnostic. I mean, if somebody can't form a relationship with a puppy, then something's really, really wrong with them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's used in many, many different ways. I don't want to go into why I suggested it for you, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Got
right.
it. Got it. Got it.
It's a therapeutic, and it's a support, and it's a developmental task that can be managed, and there's all kinds of reasons for this.
Mm-hmm.
You're on a desert island. Would you rather be stuck with another person like you or with a dog?
I mean, I would prefer to be stuck with an animal, probably.
Well, that tells you something, right? All right.
Mm-hmm.
You better not go too far down that road. Ha ha. Next question.
Yeah. So this is. So I have been reading Avatamsaka Sutra. I'm on like
Good.
the first chapter, the Book of Adornments,
Yeah.
and
Go ahead.
the bulk of it is basically like listing out a lot of these celestial beings, and then the method of their liberation. So like they did something, and then the door of liberation opened up with like the like concentration on the sounds and things like that. So after going,
Slow down. What? Just say that again. What you just said about liberation.
yeah, so in this chapter they talk about all these like numerous celestial beings who got access to doors of liberation uh, of certain way, like sounds or like infinite light or like
Let me
caring
let
for
me read a
sacred
little bit so folks just have a taste of what it's like. I just opened it at random. I'm on page 63.
beings.
The wonderful adornments of the leaders of the world. There were also innumerable kings of the heavens in which light is used for sound, led by pleasing light, pure subtle light, sound of freedom, supreme awareness and knowledge, delightful pure subtle sound, sound of skillful meditation, universal sound illumining everywhere, most profound light sound, pure name light, supreme perfect light. All of them dwelt in the unhindered state of great peace, tranquility, joy, and bliss. So, first of all, I mean, just the first sentence. This is a heaven or a world or a Buddha verse where light is used for sound. That's already mind expanding if you contemplate that. But then, furthermore, they're laying a foundation. They're starting to like it's like breaking up the stone if you want to lay a road, something like that. But go ahead. What was your? It is about all the different ways that someone can wake up. Is that true? That's one of the things
Yeah,
it's about.
yeah, that's what it seems.
Well, that's very important because people think that there's only one way. You know, you've got to be a Sufi, or you've got to be a Buddhist, or you have to be a Hindu, or you have to be something else. And they're saying no, that's not the determining factor. That's one thing. And then also the ways that people wake up how many ways are there for people to wake up, according to the text you've been reading?
It sounds like infinite. It's like anything can wake people up.
But see, now you know that, or you're closer to knowing that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So depression wakes people up. Loss of a loved one wakes people up.
Hmm.
A Zen koan wakes somebody up. Getting hit on the head wakes somebody up. You know, there's untold. I mean, and obviously I can't recapitulate the book,
Hmm.
but that's a message that people need to get, and you need to get, right? And so that's being laid down as something for you to contemplate.
Hmm. Yeah, and as I was reading through these, I started contemplating that a lot of like maybe like especially for the last couple of years, I will like meet someone who is like following very strict like religious practices or like following religious stuff, and I will get an urge to like maybe help them in a way so that they can be open-minded and then do other stuff, and then I'll hit a wall where people are not open to other stuff, and I'll feel like I failed because I'm not able to do anything or fix anything. But after reading this chapter, it seems that people can wake up with anything as long as they just put in the sincere effort. So I don't need to go about and like try to help people uh, in this way. Like people can wake up with anything.
True, true, true.
So
That's the
even if
stench
the
of
religion,
Zen. That's the stench of the New Age or something. Yeah. No, we don't need missionaries out there. It's enough to present it, right? And then let people
Mhm.
make up their own mind. And if even if they don't respond at one point in their life, this has been observed many times. The fact that they know it's there, they circle back sometimes.
Mhm.
So again, just to be exposed to the teaching is a huge blessing, and that's another function of this sutra. If you know the
Mhm.
sutra exists, just that alone makes waking up more likely.
Mhm. Got it. And
Go ahead.
I had one more incident in the last week where I was talking to someone and they mentioned that they had awakening, like some kind of, they didn't go into detail but that, but then they also talked about, and I also saw that they are not they're not able to connect with people. They're not able to like function that well in the world, and that kind of makes
All of a
me feel
sudden
that awake
or long term?
long term.
Okay.
So it makes me feel that just awakening is not the end, because I think it was with David Hawkins. He said the same thing, that he had to learn uh, after awakening to assimilate with the world.
Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, because what are you going to do? You're going to teach. You're going to ignore the world. You're going to like hide away from the world. You're going to go out and pretend that nothing's happened. There's a lot of different options because you've got a lot more freedom. And now that you're free of suffering, pretty much, the world looks different. And now what are you going to do? Because you got the rest of your life to live. That's why it's better for people to
Mm-hmm.
wake up when they're young.
Mm-hmm.
Question.
Got it. Yeah, I have other question that I wanted to ask. Uh, oh yeah, this is from the last video on your YouTube. Uh, you're basically talking about this story where someone steps on a frog and then they like not able to sleep, and the next day they saw it was an eggplant, squished eggplant.
Yeah, not only that, they had a dream that the frogs were coming after him. Then he wakes up
Yeah.
and realizes it was an eggplant. Okay.
So I had a similar experience last year where I was walking in the rain and then I felt like I stepped on a snail. Suddenly I felt really bad for stepping on the snail, and I saw the snail. It was actually a snail. And then I thought about like what I can do. There was nothing I could do. And after that, I moved on. And the thought didn't bother me uh, after like a couple of minutes, because there was nothing I could do. And then with that, and I mean, the learning was to be more careful when walking so that I don't step on things like that. But beyond that, beyond the learning, it didn't bother me uh, that much at that time, other than the initial couple of minutes where I felt that a life has been coerced, ended by me.
But you understand that this is not, it's not teaching morals here. The presumption
Hmm.
is you already have those, which you do. This is about
Hmm.
something totally different than accidentally taking a
Okay.
life. It's a totally different impulse and totally different purpose.
Hmm.
Your
Yeah,
moral
yeah.
life is assumed because, I have to assume it because I'm not going to be here teaching basic morals to people. I
Hmm.
mean, sooner or later they'll learn what they're for and why they're there.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
all right. So this is not a
All right.
morality tale. I'm
Okay.
sorry about
Got
this. You're stepping on a snail. That must, that can feel awful.
it. Then I'll go into the next question.
Just remember, you will be devoured by animals too, unless you cremate yourself or something.
Mm-hmm.
The body's just the body. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
question.
Yeah, so I have been inquiring into like like who am I thing, and I think I mentioned last time that now it feels much more subtle, like something is feeling. So when I focus on the who am I thing, uh, it's uh, it's something that feels like a very subtle, not sensation, but very subtle, something that I can intuitively feel. I can't even say I feel it, but it's something that I intuitively kind of feel. Uh, and uh, and if I focus on anywhere else, like it feels pretty much the same as well. And when I look at the boundary for it, it feels that it's in this area, but then it also feels it's not in the same like dimension or like same kind of space,
Same category.
same category. Yeah, it's not in the same category.
All right.
But that feeling of existing, that this is like this, like if that thing ends, like I can see how everyone will feel the same thing, and how it's impersonal. It's not personal to me or my experiences. So everyone might probably feel the same, will maybe the same way, but there's no still it's not infinite or like connected to anyone else. It's still my thing that I feel that if it ends, I would basically die or
You'd be
end.
dead. Yeah, you'd be dead for sure. It's very easy for people to entrain this feeling or this belief. Just go to enough seminars or watch enough YouTubes, and they will basically hypnotize you into believing that. Not hypnotize, but entrain you into believing that. But a belief is not what this is about. Beliefs are easy to form, easy to break. This is not
Mhm.
about belief. But good, okay. Good, I suppose.
So my question was
Yeah, question.
how to, yeah, my question is how to move further where I can
The sutra.
expand.
The sutra is designed exactly for that.
Okay.
And you're ready for the sutra, so read the sutra.
Okay. Got it.
And read it with a little bit of respect. I mean, good God, this is the summit of human psychological technology.
Hmm.
I mean, people put a lot of work, a lot of love, a lot of heart, a lot of effort, into refining this thing. To have it in your own language, in your hands, is like ridiculously rare.
Hmm.
So have some appreciation. Just because you can buy it on Amazon, people think, oh well, if I can buy it on Amazon, it's not that big a deal. No, you don't. People don't understand. They don't understand. They haven't thought about how something like this was created and what for. Because we become such a materialist and consumerist and just ridiculous culture, for lack of a better word, that we don't realize something precious when we have it. Question.
Yeah, this one is about basically time. So I was contemplating about
By the way,
time.
you're not
So
limited to 20 minutes a day. You could read, you could read hours a day. Nothing wrong with that. And there's something to be said for that too. The first time I read it, I did it like that the first time. But go ahead.
yeah, I was contemplating about like time. So what I did was I basically first tried to forget all the scientific, all the conceptual learning about time that I have done. and maybe try to see from the fresh set of eyes what's happening. And it seems that the now is like a lake, where it's like a lake where it's giving the capacity for things to unfold. So like in the now, or like whatever the thing is, things are unfolding uh, one by one in a sequence. And this
One by one?
process of sequence,
One by one? One by one?
it seems like one, yeah, so like not one by one, but like simultaneous things are operating,
How many
but
things?
in a kind
How many things?
of infinite, I guess.
Infinite's a lazy word.
Hmm. I mean, I would say uncountable because I can't even
You
comprehend.
mean uncountable or inconceivable? Do you mean unconceivable or
Inconceivable,
unspeakable number?
uh, inconceivable, unspeakable. Yeah.
Well, when you get to the book on what is it, the uncountable? Which book is that? That'll help you with that. Let's see. That is book. You'll get there. It's about halfway through. The
Hmm.
So we have the 10 practices, very important. The 10 inexhaustible treasuries, very important. The ascent to the palace of Tushita heaven, 10 dedication, 10 stages, 10 super knowledges, 10 acceptances, the lifespan. Is it lifespan or is it maybe it is lifespan. So when you okay, no, it's the incalculable, chapter 30. So it's about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through, something like that. That'll help you with that. And you'll see. So the other function of this is to open your mind to where you can use it. Right? We've been conditioned by school, by everything around us, to narrow our minds. Right? And they can't function smoothly. They can't function effectively. They're grossly limited. You look around, you can see it everywhere. And so to free the mind to where it can actually operate is part of the rehabilitative effects of this text. Right? So not okay, so keep going though. You were telling a tale. Keep going.
Yeah, so like simultaneously, incalculable amount of things are operating in a sequence, and this sequence is what feels like a process, like a time.
Okay.
And so when someone says that time is an illusion, maybe the label
Who
time
said time was an
is.
illusion?
I think I've read it in a few places, like space is
Einstein.
an illusion. Mm.
Einstein
Okay.
said it, all right?
Mm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
he's a big relativity guy, and everybody thinks he's the smartest man on the planet and all that stuff, but he described time as illusory, right? Or a block universe. But the point is, we all get excited about Einstein, but wait a minute, how did these people know in the second century and before the second century by probably 1,000 years?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not that long, but I mean, who knows? But the point is, no one asked, well, how did these people know that? And the way they know it is by direct perception, and the way you'll know it is by direct perception. And so a lot of these things that people torture themselves for a lifetime to figure out, they're obvious in an instant, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what's the question, or where are you going with this?
Yeah, the question was that now at that point I'm stuck, that I can't refute time. Uh,
Go to the sutra. The sutra, if you want, you could skip ahead and read lifespan, but you have to read it again as you go through the whole text.
mm-hmm.
But that's what the sutra's for. And it's not trying to convince you of anything. It's just trying to open your mind to where you can contemplate reasonably well, think reasonably well. So just like these people understood relativity, they really understood relativity in the 2nd century, as you'll see. And they understood the illusory nature of time by direct perception. And you can ask anyone who's actually woken up about time, and they'll tell you. They'll know. Because it's obvious.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Yeah, the next one I was contemplating about space.
I'm sorry. In case people are new or whatever, this is the sutra we're referring to. Enlightened translator. Translated into English for the first time not long ago. Very precious sutra. Go ahead. Psychoactive sutra. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so next one I was contemplating about space. So when I go out in the field with very open space, I can feel the vastness of space. But when I'm sitting in my apartment in a room with walls, I was not feeling that kind of vastness. But once I closed my eyes, then suddenly the vastness returned after closing my eyes.
Is it vast?
So, I mean, yeah, it feels.
So it's vast from your perspective. It's vast.
Yeah, from my perspective, it feels vast. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now imagine an ant walking into your living room. Is it that vast?
It's vaster than that. Like
okay,
I can't
what a bacteria,
see
a E. coli, right? It's able to sense space. Is it that vast?
Maybe I don't know how they would.
Okay, but as part of your contemplation, you must remember your point of view is relative and arbitrary. Now, if you want truth, if you want reality, you're going to have to be able to move from one point of view to another point of view. So for the ant, your living room's pretty vast, but put an elephant in there and it's cramped as hell. There's hardly any space at all, right? So space, your cognition about space is relative. So one of the other things that sutra, this is going to be a session on the sutra, sounds like. The other thing the sutra will help you with is automatically doing that. Saying, okay, there's my point of view, but how many points of view are there? Can you imagine if politicians did that? Or teachers, right? Or philosophers. Now, you know who is doing it, good for him, bully for him, is Stephen Wolfram with his Ruliad. So instead of looking at just what the little the three-dimensional world we happen to live in, he's looking at the universe of possible mathematical entities or space, all of them. And then we see that our world is like a tiny, tiny, tiny little dot in the Ruliad. I hope I'm not butchering it too much, but I recommend, especially for the mathematicians or the physicists or the theories of everything folks, get familiar with the Ruliad. I mean, you don't have to dive into it that deeply, but just get familiar with the construct of the Ruliad of Stephen Wolfram. It's very similar to the sutra. I'm sorry to say this, folks, but it's true. Okay. So now keep going. So you find this vast space.
But in my apartment, I don't find that. But once I close my eyes, like once the senses of visualization are closed, then I can sense the same vastness again.
Okay.
Which was weird. So I was wondering that the visual input to the mind.
Do you mind if I say something? I'm going to change the subject just a little bit, but to the folks out there, if you're living in an apartment or a small house or a big house, contemplate some animal, some creature, something other than humans living in a big shoebox. I mean, this is for people who don't go outside and who don't think they need to go outside. Just imagine an animal that's kept in a large shoebox, a mouse or something. And then if you want, give them 3 or 4 shoeboxes, whatever. Make it proportional to your space. And then think about what the long-term effects of that on the creature are. Because that's what you're doing to yourself if you don't go outside and breathe the fresh air and see the clouds of the sun and the sky, etc. I'm sorry, I just put that in as a public health announcement. Keep going. So you find this space, interior space.
So with the visual input, it somehow limits the perception of the space.
Well, that's only because you haven't trained your mind to look past that. And remember when we were doing the net of Indra practice, or the net of Loci practice? That should have gotten you past that. So go back to that practice, the Loci, where you look at the situation. Let me illustrate it for folks. So I can look at myself now. I can look at myself in a screen, or you in a screen. But then I can imagine myself from the left-hand corner of the room. And then I can imagine myself from the tallest tree on my left, from the top of the tallest tree. Or I can imagine myself from the back. Or I can imagine myself from the top of the nearest skyscraper. Or I can imagine myself from the moon. Or not from the moon, from Pluto, let's say, or I don't know, some other constellation. And I know that sounds silly, and I know it sounds like, well, what the hell does that have to do with anything? But this is why you need it. You're illustrating that. So when your mind develops the capacity to move from these different points of view, literally visual points of view, you're more able to get out of whatever box you happen to find yourself in. And then you aren't limited by the walls of your apartment or house or whatever. Okay? So that's a practice for that, to overcome that particular obstacle. Okay? Now, the sutra later will also take care of that. And much more elegantly, I might add.
Cool.
And then everyone should be
one is
familiar
from
also with the net of Indra. And if you're not, just DM me or comment on YouTube or something. Go ahead.
No, it was about the next question.
All right, next question.
Yeah, so this is from the book The Secret of the Golden Flower.
All right.
This is from page 20.
I hope I have it here. Let's see. Oh yeah, I found it. Page 20.
20, 13, or point 13.
Let me read it to folks. The actual practice goes from shallow to deep, from crude to fine. Throughout, it is best to be consistent. The practice is one from beginning to end, but its quality during the process can be known only by oneself. Nevertheless, it is necessary to wind up at the point where, quote, heaven is open, earth is broad, and all things are just as they are. For only this can be considered attainment. And here comes line 13. What, excuse me. What has been communicated through successive ages is not beyond reversed gazing. Confucians call it reaching towards knowledge. Buddhists call it observing mind. Taoists call it inner observation. What's the question?
Yeah, so I thought that observing mind and turning the light around are different things. So like observing mind is when I observe my inners as well as the outer, and turning the light around is when I am just kind of focused on that uh,
Okay, ask the
like that.
question without the book. Ask your question without reference to any book.
Okay.
Because otherwise I can't
So,
understand what you're saying, and it's complex. I mean, this is 17th century
mhm.
Buddhist. This is,
So I think I
go ahead.
yeah. So here, what they're referencing by observing mind is the same thing that I end up in after I do the turning the light around exercise.
All right.
But I thought observing mind was something different, which was when I'm
You're going
observing.
to the books. Just speak English to me. Talk to me.
Okay.
What's the question?
Uh, the question is, what is observing mind then? Is
Whose
it
phrase is
different
observing mind?
in the book?
Okay, you got it. You can't do that. The
Okay.
books are to prepare you, but you can't. You can't. You're not eating fake food here. You're not eating the recipe book. You're not going to eat
Hmm.
the instruction manual. The books
Hmm.
are the finger pointing to the moon. Don't get caught up on the finger. Just talk to me.
Okay.
What's the question?
Okay. Got it.
What's the question?
I mean, I think I just wanted to understand that the observing mind that I used to think is it, yeah, like, is it like something like wrong or something th that I was
Wrong.
focusing incorrectly, or like some practice that I was
I
doing
don't understand the
incorrectly.
question. I don't understand the question. Just speak frankly. Just
Okay, so one of the practices I do is I observe the inner, like whatever inner is going on, like the feelings, thoughts, sensations,
good.
or whatever. Like I'm watching the reactions in the body, in the mind, and
Good.
I'm also focusing on the outside, not the object as such, but like vaguely with the happenings. So that is
The
what I
happening.
was.
I don't understand. I'm not following the happenings. What do you mean the happenings?
So, like right now, when I'm talking to you, along with observing my inner condition, I'm also watching you and listening at the same time.
Okay.
So, this is what I meant, like
What's the
watching
question?
the outside. So, last week you mentioned that
No,
I
no.
was doing
Right. What's the
something.
question here? It's not. This is not in this moment. Right. This is like Zen teaching. I need to know what's happening right now. What's the question you're trying to ask, or can you ask it?
Okay. Yeah, the question is if I'm missing something in this practice, or do I need to
What do you
do?
think?
I feel like I need to let go and not be obsessive about it.
I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button. Yeah, no kidding. But in addition to that, you need to evolve.
Hmm.
You need to keep growing. Keep. So you answered your own question first of all, and secondly, yeah, like all of us here on this in this world called endurance, you need to keep growing. Keep
Hmm.
going, right?
Hmm.
Follow up.
I have
It's not just a
another
matter of being
question.
obsessive. It's a matter of being caught up on a construct. You're been snagged by a concept. The concept of the
Hmm.
observing mind and the concept of the objects of the observing mind. Those have snagged you.
Hmm. Got it.
Which happens, but then it has to be unhappened. It has to be undone. That's okay. That's good. Follow up.
I think I had another question on the same chapter, point 16, but then that might also be
Well,
just
let's
me
see.
being
Let's
obsessed.
see. Let's see. Circumstances alter cases. So, what page?
So page 21.16, stopping and seeing.
Okay, we're talking a page number or okay, 2116.
Page 12.
The term
Page
stopping
21.
and seeing basically cannot be separated. What's the question?
So here they say, so they basically describe the process, the technique, which is uh, to basically investigate the thought. And once I realize that the origin cannot be grasped, that's
Let me read
once
this to folks.
I,
It's beautiful. Let me read it. The terms stopping and seeing basically cannot be separated. The terms stopping and seeing basically cannot be separated. They mean concentration and insight. Hereafter, whenever thoughts arise, you don't need to sit still as before, but you should investigate this thought. Where is it? Where does it come from? Where does it disappear? Push this inquiry on and on, over and over, till you realize it cannot be grasped. Then you will see where the thought arises. You don't need to seek out the point of arising anymore. Having looked for my mind, I realize it cannot be grasped. I have pacified your mind for you, as the old saying goes. All right?
Mhm.
So now what's the question?
Yeah, so the question is, here they are saying that investigate the thought, then I get to ungraspability, which I do, and then after that, thought arise, and then I just continue doing that. And then with this practice, it will refine with time.
So turning around is called stopping. The light is seeing. Stopping without seeing is called turning around without light. Seeing without stopping is called having light without turning it around. Remember this. Okay, good. What's the question again?
So yeah, so if I just keep doing this, is that the practice, or am I missing something?
Okay, tell me again what you're doing.
So basically, I basically wait for a thought to arise. When the thought arises, I try to look for its source from where it's arising. After doing that for like some time, I am not able to find that out. But the mind quiets down. No more thoughts are arising. But then suddenly another thought arises, and then I do the same thing, and it
Well,
ends
but
up.
where does it disappear to, the thought?
So thought arises and it disappears the same way
Does
it
it? Are you
arose.
sure? Well, don't do the practice now. But are you sure?
I mean, not sure because
Well, you need
I
to just,
haven't
yeah, you need to keep
long enough.
investigating, right? None of this is perfunctory. None of this is for show. None of this is just to keep you occupied while, because there's 30 people in a hermitage and you need to keep them busy. 30 or 300 you need in a Tibetan monastery and you're trying to keep the monks busy or something like that. No, this is all right to the point. So you need to investigate that. And the space that thoughts occur in, is that the same thing as the space you're talking about? When you say you go outside and you have this big space?
Those feel different.
Okay, how are they different? So on and so forth. So keep investigating. But this is good. This is actually very good. All right, sir?
Got it.
Anything else before we
Right.
stop?
Uh, Let me just quickly see. Yeah, just one last thing.
All right, sir.
This is page 14, point 10 from the same book.
At this point, for you, I think just reading the sutra is going to give you. Okay, what page 14, 10?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, go
point
ahead
10.
and read it.
It says people create the body by attention. The body is not just a physical body because there's a lower soul therein. The lower soul functions in association with consciousness, and consciousness develops based on the lower soul. The lower soul is dim. It is the substance of consciousness. If consciousness is not interrupted, transformation and transmutation of the lower soul go on endlessly from lifetime to lifetime, generation to generation.
Okay, what's your question?
So my question was that we create the body by attention. I was not able to really get that.
What else do we create by our attention?
Like with attention, I can,
If you go to sleep
I
and
can.
are not dreaming, is there a body there?
mm, I mean, if the body lies there, yeah.
Subjectively.
Objectively, it's not there.
Subjectively.
Yes, subjectively, it's not there. Yeah.
Okay. And then you wake up and all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's a body there.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
Not about that.
Good. What's the question?
But
So you see
here
how
they're
your
talking
attention
about.
creates the body, right?
Yeah, I can see that
All
from
right, good.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
next question, follow up.
No, I think I need to contemplate more on this on and then see. I don't have any question as such right now on this.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Guard your mind,
Cool.
free your
Thank
mind,
you.
and keep going with the sutra.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.